Hi everybody, Chris here from Flying Star Astrology, and today we're going to talk about the Iowa caucuses coming up on Monday, February 3rd, 2020. I think this is the first video that I've done on politics, only because it's just so, it's a volatile topic, but I wanted to talk about this particular event because of things that I am seeing with regard to two particular candidates in the Democratic Party, and it's interesting to me to look at the flying stars. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. So the two front runners for the Iowa caucus, and I think in the polls nationally, are Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And the caucus is taking place on Monday in Iowa. And it's expected that Bernie is going to win the caucus, which seems to have the Democratic National Party sort of up in arms. And, when the 2016 elections took place, Bernie was the favorite then too, and somehow Hillary ended up with the nomination. So I wanted to look at the flying stars because it looks like that could happen again, based upon what's happening within the DNC and their changing of the rules for different things when they don't seem to like what they are experiencing. So for Bernie Sanders for this Monday for this election, and for Joe Biden for Monday for the election, the flying stars show some interesting things that are going to affect both of them throughout the year, but I'm just looking at a snapshot for this particular day. So for Bernie, his success directions have stars that show that it's really good for his career. It also shows that women sort of dominate the energy. So it could feel for him like women are like on his back about something, like maybe they don't like something that he has to say, but it could also be that he has strong support from women because of this star combination. Joe's success direction shows that he's having financial problems, and that doesn't really surprise me a whole lot, only because when you do see rare footage of him speaking in front of people, like at a town hall or something like that, people do show up to see him, but the crowds are much smaller than those that show up to see Bernie. Bernie has been able to successfully raise money at the grassroots level, getting people to donate like $15, $20 at a time, and Joe has not had much luck connecting with people. I think Bernie does a better job of explaining his political views than Joe probably does, and Bernie's message is consistent, which people like. Even if you don't like his message, it's always the same, right? Joe Biden's message is not always the same. It's not always consistent. People aren't really sure where he stands sometimes, which is not unusual. There are a lot of politicians who tell you one thing today, and then if somebody says, well, wait a minute, I don't like that, they step back and they say, well, that's not what I meant. So, all of this waffling makes people uncomfortable because they don't know where the politicians stand. And so that could be hurting Joe in terms of raising financial, funds for his campaign, but also the stars are just not favorable for him for raising money, at least at this time. For his relationships, it's positive. His relationships with women show positive energy, and it also shows that his relationships are going to be good for his career. For Joe, it's showing that it's negative for his career and negative for him because there could be talk about him touching women, like inappropriate touching or inappropriate behavior around women. It's interesting how the stars bring out literally information that has been in the press sometimes when I look at it. It's like, wow, that's like scary accurate how accurate some of these things are. So not good for his relationships, really good for Bernie. The wisdom direction, which is decision making and trusting your gut instinct. For Bernie, the stars show fame and change in relationships. So it could be that he attracts more people as a result of this particular caucus, or people change how they feel about him just because they see him maybe rising up in the polls. For Joe, it shows money problems again, so bad decision making when it comes to trying to raise money. and also campaign challenges. So it could be that his campaign team is making decisions that are not good for fundraising, that people just really don't connect with and don't want to give money to. So everything that I see about Joe for this caucus is negative, and everything I see about Bernie is positive. So it would be really surprising if Bernie did not win the Iowa caucus Monday. I highly, highly expect that he will. However, going forward, his momentum is likely to continue because he has really, really, really good stars this year. Joe does not have very good stars this year. So the reason I wanted to put this together is that I know the DNC wants Joe Biden, or that's what they've indicated, they want Joe Biden to be their candidate. Bernie is going to be the one who comes out on top again. So in 2016, he came out on top. They gave it to Hillary. In 2020, he's going to come out on top. And it'll be interesting to see if they give it to Joe. So, people may say, oh, well, you must be a fan of Bernie Sanders. And the answer is actually no. I don't agree with anything that he says. But when you see injustice in a situation, it kind of like makes you go, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Which is why I wanted to look at his stars, because if they were negative this year and he didn't get the nomination, it would make more sense, but his stars are really positive. So it would be hard for him not to get the nomination this year from the DNC. So anyway, all of this goes back to another comment that I had when I was reviewing the annual stars in another video that I posted earlier, I think in January sometime, is that we're likely to see government change across the globe this year for 2020 because the star of change sits in the area of government. It also sits in the area of health. So that star, the coronavirus, or however they're pronouncing that particular virus that came out of China, that could be, as a result of this star coming out. Every time some illness comes from China, the world makes a big, huge production about it, and then it turns out to be not so horrible as everybody thought. And I remember one time I was in Hong Kong and the bird flu was prevalent, and it was told, don't go anywhere, don't do anything. Well, I didn't get it. Nobody I knew got it. And, people did die, which is unfortunate, but people die from illness every day. So I don't know how, hopefully it won't be a horrible situation for the world. But with the change star sitting in the direction of health, it's possible that more people get sick as a result of this virus this year than they would in a year like last year or even next year. Government change, Britain, we've already seen, we've had Megxit, which is the leaving of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and also Brexit, which took place yesterday. So Britain left the European Union. US, we've had the impeachment trial for Trump. And then we also have the elections coming up. So all of this brings change. Hong Kong, we've seen protesters in Hong Kong protest against the Chinese government. They don't like the Chinese rule, which is kind of interesting to me because I was there in 1997 when Britain handed over Hong Kong back to China. And people there were really happy about it. And it kind of reminds me of Venezuela a little bit. My husband grew up in Venezuela, and the last time that we were there, Chavez was in the process of running for president, and he kept promising all these wonderful things, and everybody said, great, we want you in. They voted him in, and now it's a disaster. So, you got to kind of be careful what you wish for when you're thinking about how you want your government to run. You can't just look at the people. You have to look at what they are likely to do and how that will impact the entire community, the entire country going forward. So you may like somebody the way they look or the words that they use, but when you think about their policies, you really have to take into account what does that mean down the road. Don't just take it on face value that this is wonderful. Look at other countries that are doing something similar and see how it's affecting them, because now you're making an educated decision. We also have seen, I just found an article yesterday, 47 countries have seen an increase in civil unrest just in the last couple of months. So this could bring about other change in governments across the globe. that we're not that familiar with, or that we don't generally see in the news, especially as Americans, because we don't pay a lot of attention to what's happening in countries and other parts of the world unless it's something really big. So anyway, that's my prediction for the Iowa caucus, and if you found that interesting, post a comment below. If you have any questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to do a video about, post that in the comments or questions below, and I'll take a look at doing that. Subscribe to this channel if you like these videos and give it a thumbs up, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.